Hello and welcome. My name is Stefania Fiorentino, and I'm delighted to be here on behalf of the board of the Regional Studies Association to present this 2025 Distinguished Service to Regional Studies Award. This is an award recognizing those who have made an important contribution to the field, either through long-lasting quiet service or a brief but in fact impactful intervention. And I'm very happy to announce one of the 2025 recipients, which is Flavia Martinelli of the Università Mediterranea di Reggio Calabria in the south of Italy. Congratulations, Flavia, and thank you for joining me today. You graduated in Florence, then studied in Paris and Berkeley, California, where you obtained your PhD. After that, you returned to Italy and built your academic career in the south, first in Naples and then in Reggio Calabria. So this is quite of a remarkable journey. And I will hand over to you now.
Thank you very, very much, Stefania. Let me first say that I'm truly honored to receive the RSA Award for Distinguished Service, and I warmly thank the board that you represent today for thinking of me. Indeed, after some wandering around the world, I have returned to my home country and I spent the rest of my academic career in southern Italy, working on what used to be called the Southern Question, meaning the persistent regional divide, the historical regional divide, and still standing between the Mezzogiorno, the way in Italy we call the South, and the rest of the country. You see, although my family comes from the north, I was actually born in Trieste at the other end of Italy. I grew up in a small coastal town of Calabria, the poorest region of southern Italy. And I personally witnessed the profound poverty and socioeconomic transformations that occurred in the South in the post-war years. I mean, especially the late 50s and the 60s and part of the 70s. Just to make an example, in the early 60s, every morning while going to school, I would cross paths with a peasant woman shrouded in black, as was the traditional custom, perched on a donkey with the traditional straw baskets, carrying her produce to the market. 10 years later, that same woman was dressed in a colorful nylon dress, had a perm with curls in her hair, and she drove a Fiat 600 Multipla to take her produce to the market in plastic cases. Also, I was able to attend high school in the same small town. It just opened when I was there. And I could also have attended the regional university, which was established at the beginning of the 70s in the main provincial town. But I wanted to go north, and so I ended up in Florence. Of course, at the time, I could not contextualize the abysmal poverty and the incredible transformations that were occurring, nor I could explain them. But I was curious, and I asked myself questions, and I made comparisons. So when I went to the university, I started to study the Southern Question, its historical roots, the various policies that were implemented over time, and their impact. And I was able to contextualize my personal experience in the broader national and international regional economic debate. And that's my story. So coming back to live and work in the South was, in the end, a natural choice.
Thank you very much, Flavia, for sharing your fascinating story with us and also the way you have applied your personal experience to your own career. So one more thing before we go, we want to know from you what you would consider your most important contribution to the field so far.
I thank you for this question. What I most enjoyed and where I think I made the greatest impact was teaching. When I took service at the University in Reggio Calabria in 1989, I was given great support by the institution in carrying out both comparative research. I exploited my international connections for that, but also, and most importantly, in innovating the teaching organization. And I'm very grateful to my university for that. I was given the opportunity to reorganize the existing urban planning program, which, by the way, was the second to be established in Italy after Venice, although still mostly oriented to urban planning. And inspired by my experience in Berkeley, I introduced new courses, broadening the field to regional development and policy, courses on tourism and local development, on ecology and environmental planning. I also introduced applied workshops, as well as a semester-based system, which was totally unknown in Italy and was strongly resisted at the time, but then was adopted university-wide. In 1990, I also engineered the first Erasmus interinstitutional agreement between Reggio Calabria and 5 other European universities for the exchange of planning students. Sadly, the planning program was recently closed for various reasons, but I continued teaching regional development and policy in other programs. And in my courses, what I basically taught students was the post-war history of their region, the Mezzogiorno. A post-war history that they do not study at school, they know nothing about. The economic and the political debate, the policies implemented, the socioeconomic transformations that have occurred over the decades in the different policy phases of regional policy in Italy, from the national intervention of the first 40 years, post-war 40 years, to the current EU cohesion policy. And all this against the broader national and international context. I also assigned applied work to the students, such as interviewing someone in the family with a story of out-migration. I wish to remind you that in the 50s and 60s, the south of Italy experienced massive out-migration flows, first overseas, the Americas, then to Northern Europe and Northern Italy. And there is at least one story of out-migration in every Southern family. And I also asked them to gather and analyze statistical data on their municipality. And they loved it because they learned things about their family history that they didn't know. And they also could contextualize their own daily reality, their municipality, in what I was teaching. In the end, I believe that besides good professionals, I contributed in a way to make my students conscious citizens of their region, of Italy, and of Europe, with a greater awareness of and a more critical perspective on the complex factors, endogenous and exogenous, that are at play in development processes and policy implementation. They have told me so over the years and across generations. And this is indeed my greatest satisfaction. Last but not least, I believe that I have also helped young Southern women to understand and exploit the power of knowledge and to gain awareness of their value. And all this really makes me proud.
Thank you, Flavia, and congratulations once again, and especially on this last point. I think it is a great source of pride. So I also know that you're currently a member of the board of SVIMEZ, which is the Historical Italian Association for the Development of the Mezzogiorno, the south of Italy, and that was founded in 1947. So I'm sure you will continue with your good work. And it was very good to see you today. Thank you for joining us virtually, and goodbye.
thank you so very much.